Let's cross to the UK now and catch up with Sophie Ellsworth, News Corp correspondent and, of course, Sky News contributor, live in London. Good to talk to you again, Sophie. There's some big news breaking about King Charles offering a second state visit to Donald Trump. Of course, he got a state visit as president first time around about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Tell us how unusual this one would be.
Well, Chris, we heard this news overnight here in Britain that the King Charles III has invited President Trump and his wife, First Lady Melania, to London. They will be coming here, Chris, in September, from September 17 to 19. It's his second state visit, which is quite unusual since he has been president. So the first one, obviously, during his first term in office, and the next one coming up in a couple of months. So he will visit here in the UK. He'll be welcomed in Windsor because Buckingham Palace is undergoing significant renovations. But this is really interesting, the timing, Chris, because he won't be able to address the Houses of Parliament because they are conveniently in a break when he's here. Now, whether or not that was deliberate, who knows? But he's not going to get the same audience that French President Emmanuel Macron got when he was here last week. Yeah,
I think that's the very interesting part of this story, is that he won't be speaking down there at the House, at the Parliament House. And of course, there would have been, extreme, if you like, or hard left politicians, anti-Trump politicians there who might cause a stir. There might have been something that we saw in Australia with when the King was here and Lydia Thorpe threw a tantrum. So they're sort of avoiding that political aspect of the trip. Is there much commentary on that in the UK at the moment?
There absolutely is, Chris, because it was very deliberate, I believe, that it was timed so that they avoided this whole potential fallout from him addressing the Houses of Parliament. So they've managed to avoid that with the very particular timing that they've now locked in and that President Trump has confirmed. So there's much chatter about this today on the Talkback Radio here in London. Many people saying that this was deliberately intended to avoid that Houses of Parliament address.
Now, meanwhile, of course, the UK government's still very much on the path to net zero, committed to get to net zero. Big expansion of nuclear power to get there because they are rational and sensible, but they're still really pushing and prepared to spend hundreds of billions of pounds to get people into electric cars. Here's the latest from the Transport Secretary.
We are committed to achieving net zero by 2050, and we know that the emissions that come from road transport are a very significant amount of our domestic emissions. We have made it clear that we will phase out the sale of petrol and diesel cars that are solely powered by an internal combustion engine, by 2030.
That just sounds impossible. Is it seen as achievable in the UK, Sophie?
Well, the latest numbers, Chris, in June showed that they're falling behind the mandated 28% of EVs that need to be sold. About 1 in 4 vehicles sold here in the UK are EVs. But all along the streets, even out the front of my own home, you can charge in your EV. But they're now talking about helping households pay for infrastructure so that they can have EV cords running under the pathways into their home to charge their vehicles. Remembering a lot of homes here in Britain don't have garages, they don't have driveways, and a lot of people don't even have vehicles. So this seems like a very far-fetched dream to reach these targets, but the government is trying to introduce new subsidies to make it more appealing and more affordable for people to go down this road, Chris.
Yeah, heaven forbid they just let people make up their own minds. They seem to be burning money instead of burning coal. We'll see where it goes. On the other side of the ledger, business seems to be wisening up, with one of the big British banks, HSBC, jumping off the net zero bandwagon.
They have indeed, Chris. So they've announced that they won't be part of this collective. Banks all across the world, I think it was 44 countries, there's over 100 banks that have been part of this net zero group, and they've said that they're going to abandon being part of these targets. Now, Australia has a whole heap of banks, including the big four, that are part of this collective who implement strategies to try and meet net zero targets. But HSBC, one of the biggest banks here in Britain, has said they are abandoning this, and it comes on the back, Chris, of several banks in America also doing the same. Once Donald Trump came into office, there's a whole heap of them that have done this, and they've said, including Bank of America, have said, we're not going to be part of this anymore.
Shouldn't be their business. They should be just loaning to ventures that will return money to them. There are safe investments. They should stay out of this sort of stuff. But just going back a couple of years, this very same bank, of course, was advertising its wokeness. Have a look.
Climate action can only be achieved through collaboration. So we're working with governments, banks, and other global institutions to accelerate change. That's how we're helping to finance the transition and working to build a net zero future.
No, I'll stick to the banking. Hey, Sophie, I bet they don't do new ads advertising that they're bailing out. They'll just quietly get on with business, I'd suggest.
Well, yes, Chris. I mean, this is not good for the alliance that this bank, HSBC, has pulled out. There's also Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, and several others, massive ones in America, have done the same. So I expect we'll see more banks do this. But whether the Australian banks do it, Chris, let's wait and see.
That's the big question. Probably not with the Albanese government leering over them. We'll see. Thanks for joining us again, Sophie Ellsworth, there live from London.